good. Hopefully we have sound. Let's find out. I'm not hearing any sound. What's going on? Oh. Yep.
Yep.
We are good. That.
So weird having name change in my contact.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll like get a message. I'm like, who the hell's this? I'm like, oh yeah.
My wife.
Yeah. No, I said that at work. I was like, I was chatting to someone like a new guy, and I was like telling him something. I was like, oh yeah, me and my wife did this.
Yeah.
And someone else I work with was like, oh, what is that? How you're just going to refer to her? I'm like, calm down. I'm like, easy. Like, she is my wife.
Yeah. I'm not wrong.
I was like, I will also use her proper name, Mrs. Nunn.
Yes, exactly. Right, here we go.
The whole Liam Kumar effect. Not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I've remember Norley said he could make
Don't
it.
dig this hole. Phil,
Yeah, the high
thanks
tech.
to the guy. Always but he is a shocking person. You guys got a trophy? No. It was Marie.
Well, that's from Michelle Mendes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, a very special episode because we have, as you can see to my right, a debut guest on the show. It's Coach Nunn, who is one of the founding teams, of course, technically. Welcome, Coach Nunn. How's it going?
Yeah, that's good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
And of course, you maybe, as I've teased in the bio of the episode, making a debut appearance in more ways than one, as this could potentially be your first year of playoffs since you've returned to the league.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. So, of course, we're going to look back at Week 11 today and give the game day preview of the Week 12 games. And, yeah, let's just get into it. And, of course, we need to start off with the league news. Now, you'll notice, of course, Chris is not here this week, but Chris does make an appearance in one different way on the show, as he has written the power rankings this week, which we'll get to in a bit. But, league news first, key transactions, and I've stupidly forgotten to write down the dollar values of the additions on here, so I will show you them on here as we go. So, first one, we've got Baker Mayfield for Matthew Stafford by the Tuck Farts. So, let's just find out how much that was, because that was the more interesting part of this. But let's find it right. $32. Phil spent $32 on Baker Mayfield. What do you make of this ad, Ross?
I mean, it's expensive.
It's expensive. We've seen.
I mean, Phil does like spending some money.
He does, yeah.
So
we can bring up the budgets right now, and it's odd because in previous years, quarterback obviously hasn't been as much as a priority on free agency, but this year quarterbacks have been going for mega money all year long. Obviously, Chris in week 1 spent, I think, nearly $40 on Dak Prescott. We've seen, I think Phil won, he actually got Matthew Stafford, spent quite a bit. Ben spent quite a bit on some players. There's been some mad money going on quarterbacks. That's a great time for my laptop to crash as well. Just as we'll stumble through the rest of the transactions, but yeah, some mega money there, and it's a risky one because, of course, Mayfield's not been the most reliable this year, has he?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm going from your you telling me that right now. I'll agree that yes, he's not been very reliable. I mean, the Browns have not exactly been killing it, so I'd be surprised if it turns out to be the best use of money, but you got the money there for a reason, so you might as well spend it.
And I think he is playing Miami this week, though. There is an interesting stat on Miami that they've not given up a lot of points against the opposition quarterbacks, as much as you would think. So, our next one then, we don't have it on here, but I remember it, thankfully. The next two were notable drops, and I can probably bring them up on here. So, the notable drop is Juju Smith-Schuster by my team. He was obviously a second-round pick in the draft. definitely didn't live up to expectation, partially because Big Ben got injured in week 2. But yeah, he is now cut. And another notable drop, David Johnson, which is even more notable. He was a first-round pick. I think he was maybe even 4th or 5th overall, dropped by Bedetnes. And again, we'll bring it up. He has had some really good weeks, as you can see there. A great stretch there. But he's obviously had his injury problems since then. And with Kenyon Drake now in town as well, it's not looking good. Sorry. So other notable additions of the week, I think I picked out a couple. That was a good one there. Bo Scarborough, he was completely free, and he's the starting running back for the Lions. It looks like. The other ones that I picked out, where are they? I think. Oh yeah, so after David Johnson was a notable drop, he was also a notable addition by bare necessities. They spent $1 on him and dropped Jared Goff. So we'll see if that pays off for him. And I think there may have been one more, or was that it? No, I think that was it. Oh, fresh off the press, Brandon Cooks added by Bedetnes literally 2 minutes ago. He probably did that while he was watching.
Yeah, it's almost like he was trying to get a shout out on the show.
Yeah, well, you accomplished it, Ollie, and have fun riding the Brandon Cooks train. I can tell you right now, it's not a fun train. So that was all of the notable adds and drops. So we've added a new feature. Debate corner in the news. I don't know how up to date you are with the LOC report.
I'm not that up to date.
That's fine. No. You've had other things to tackle. This year.
Mean, if I didn't have other things, I also probably would be a bit shaky on being up to date as well. But you know.
So debate corner. Me and Chris, the last few weeks have been debating the stuff for the AGM because we previously I'll put the AGM stuff out there. No one really knows what it is until we get there. So I thought good platform to discuss it. Way before in advance. So We've looked at the roster. We've looked at the waiver. Chris was going to bring his thing this week, but obviously Chris isn't here.
Yeah,
way to tease it last week, Chris. So we will just talk about it. I don't think we've talked about this one yet. So playoff review is on the docket for next year's AGM. And by that I mean, so at the moment we obviously have our 14 playoff format, the 3 division winners and then the next best record. We've talked about expanding it before. But we've never thought it right because the option in the league is to up it to 6 teams, and then obviously if you up it to 6 teams, half the league is in the playoffs, and it dilutes it a bit, of course. But I have a proposal here. So 5-team playoff. So in that setup, the league winner in the regular season would get a bye in week 13. And then playoffs would start a week earlier. But you wouldn't have 6 teams. It would be 5 teams playoffs. So, you just match the number 1 team up against someone random, and it wouldn't count that week. Yeah. But the 5th team would then be the team to score the most points. So you would have the 3 division winners going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
The best record outside of those, and then the most points forward out of those. Because often we see you can have some really good points forward by a team, and they'll just get scored in some weeks, maybe get a bit unlucky, and then miss out on playoffs.
Yeah.
So, what do you make of that proposal?
I think it's a solid idea because then at least if you are solidly winning ahead of anyone else, you've got an extra advantage. Yeah. The downside being, say, this year we've got a very close league in my division.
Yes.
And so basically we're going to end up in a situation that regardless, probably one of us will win that league and end up going in first.
Yeah.
Meaning that we're going to end up playing each other in the first playoff.
Yeah.
It would only mean that the only way we wouldn't is if something pushed us apart.
Yeah.
Sort of late in the day on our win records.
Yeah.
So having something like that would definitely give a more incentive to someone to be winning overall, because then you are getting that advantage. Yeah,
absolutely. So, interesting thing to keep in mind for the AGM, and we'll look at it, of course. And we have another viewer. Hello, viewers. Of course, if you want to comment along, we can see your comments, so we can interact with you during the show. But we will move straight on then to not Microsoft Teams, because that's not interesting. We will go on to the weekly recaps, and first of all, we must look at last week's marquee matchup. You didn't watch the show, Ross. Chris isn't here, so let's hope I remember what game we chose. I think it was probably I think it was the Portsmouth Division games we chose, but specifically this one. So let's go with that, because the Portsmouth Division is the closest division at the moment in terms of the playoff race. So we'll start off with the Portsmouth Division matchup of Ixan versus the Wizard of Boz. And we need my jingle. Here we go. Last week, Ixan took on the Wizard of Boz in a battle of supremacy for the Portsmouth Division. And Ixan came out superior as he won this one 105-82. Ben is now on a 3-game win streak, and he stops Ollie from making his own win streak. Looking down the lineups for Ben's team, it was a solid effort all round, really. Rivers got 14, Davenport got 12, Colton Sutton got 14, Marvin Jones 16, Kevin Ridley 20, and Todd Gurley 17 as well. So a solid day. On the other side of the ball, Ollie was without Russell Wilson as he was on his bye, but Jimmy Garoppolo basically did his best job impersonating him as he got 37 points. But outside of Mark Andrews' 14, not much else there. Looking at the history of this matchup then, all time, let's try and find Ixan on here. They're down there. Ixan is now 3-2 all time against Ollie Gardner. Well, what are your takeaways from this matchup, Ross?
I mean, if I was Ben, I would have been looking pretty worried at that QB performance, but I think the rest of the team definitely pushed him back up there. I mean, and then you just see the general scores. It's been a little bit of a disappointing week for Ollie with some of how his other players performed. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you've got guys there like Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, and even Kenny Golladay, who have been absolute mainstays for his team all season long, and not one of them top 10 points.
Yeah. It's not what you want from a
no
a big matchup like this.
No. Ollie's team did, but I think Ben may have had the game in hand entering Monday night with Phillip Rivers, because I think they were the game in Mexico last week. Yeah, so we can see there that Ben basically took it from the Sunday night game and never looked back. Decisive win in the end by Ixan, and that will really help stake their claim to the division. And if we just take a look at the benches here, so nothing would have changed the matchup there for Ollie, of course. And for Ben leaving John Brown. Now, this was crazy to me. That John Brown has been a great player all year long. We'll just flash up his points. If you look here, he's been the model of consistency. Not necessarily great weeks, but he's been pretty good. And he's playing Miami. I know you're a Miami fan, Ross, but you can even probably speak.
I mean, you would say this season that you would like your chances of putting anyone up against Miami. This back end of the season, though,
they've been a bit stronger.
They're coming back. I mean, they're making it into the playoffs, I think. You gotta watch out for Miami right now. When you look at all their games coming up, and the fact they actually look like they're trying to win games now instead of just laying down and taking it. I think maybe it was a reasonable choice to rest a player against Miami if you're not certain.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously he got the win anyway, so we can't fault him. And all of the players who played got over 10, so wouldn't have made a difference. But interesting choice on us. We'll go to the next game, then we'll come back to the other Portsmouth game. We'll cover off this one because we should do your team next, Ross. You are on the podcast, so it was Ben Acestes against at the time I believe you were called Four Weddings and a Few Newsoms. So,
yes, I was.
Let's go with In another key divisional matchup, Ben Acestes looking to reverse their horrendous losing streak of 5 games. Meanwhile, Ross trying to go toe-to-toe with Forge Fires, who were also leading the division, and he may have got away with one a bit here. Won it 87-60, but stays alive in the playoff race. Ben Acestes now fall to a 6-game loss streak. Meanwhile, you extend yours to 2, Ross. Looking down. Not a terrific week, but you had some good performers in Rat Ryan, who got 18, Michael Thomas, who got 17, Josh Jacobs got 10, and Raven Z coming up trumps. Nearly a shutout, 19 points. On the other side, Ben Acestes, a dismal day in which they started a player who did not play in Matt Brader, Big Fat 0. Julian Edelman got 12, Travis Kelce got 15, Ramsey got 13, but not much else doing there. History of this matchup is now Ross a lot closer, 5-3 in favour of my dad. Oh, calm down, Jingle. So, what happened in this game, Ross?
I mean, I was on paper, I was always going to win this matchup, but I know coming up against Dave's team year on year, I generally don't come out well, and I generally look like I'm in a better position than I end up being at the end of it. So I got to say, I was a little bit worried. Sat on that sunbed, waiting for the games to start. I was definitely shaking a little bit. But then when I saw obviously in my time it was in the middle of the afternoon, so I thought it was a bit crazy to be playing a player that wasn't going to start. But obviously for Dave, he was probably a bit busy doing a few things in the evening, getting ready for bed. So it's understandable. I've been in that position where I've played two players that actually didn't play. So I can understand how it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course it would not have made the difference in this matchup. Look at my dad's bench. There was nothing there that would have changed this game. Of course, he did have Jimmy Swinston on the bench, but there's no way you're starting him over Deshaun Watson, even what profile to be a tough matchup. But of course, you were the beneficiary of that.
Yes,
because the Ravens, you were starting against him, which was an interesting dynamic. And yeah, to your credit, you say my dad was obviously 5-2 against you entering this game, so he did have the upside. But your team certainly has been the better team this year, and my dad's team is the only team worse than mine in terms of recent form. Or a 6-game loss streak, of course. So you move on to 8-3, and we'll see how you come up against Forge Flyers right now, because the next game we have is Gridiron Gang against Forge Flyers. If my jingle decided to play, this is
embarrassing.
There we go. Right with that. the beauty of live podcasting. Speaking of podcasting, the Podcast Bowl, as Forge Flyers took on Gridiron Gang last week. Forge Flyers obviously vying for playoffs, while Gridiron Gang looking to reverse their recent run of 3 losses. And for a long time, it looked like an upset was in the making. You can't see the chart there, but it was close for a long time. But ultimately, Chris came out on top in this one, 116-87. Looking down Chris's lineup, Dak Prescott had a terrific day with 38. Christian McCaffrey did Christian McCaffrey things and got 19. Marlon Mack, despite getting injured in the game, still got 17 points. And Will Lutz got 10. And may I say, the most garbage of garbage time scores, Carlos Hyde rumbled for a 40-plus yard touchdown. Not that it would have made a difference, but that's when I knew it was over, and he got 13. For my team, Drew Brees had a nice day with 27, and then the special teams got 11 and 13 apiece, but outside of that, quite a few consistent guys, but nothing to shake the wood. So Chris moves to 8-3, Gridiron Gang falls to 2-9 in a 4-game loss streak. History of this matchup is now 10-8 in favour of Gridiron Gang. Chris's team continues to rumble on.
Yeah, he's got a solid team. It's a little bit worrying, to be honest. It's seeing our division and regretting being pulled into that division now, because I would feel a bit more secure if I was in a league that I wasn't having to fight against this. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Chris's team has been on an absolute roll, and it's easy to see why with the guys he's got there. Though he's lost Marlon Mack now, which you take him away, he still wins this one, but the bench is looking dicey.
Yeah. I mean, he had a couple buys anyway, but yeah, his scoring players are not putting in the performances you'd want for changing in for your inactive players.
Yeah, certainly not. And I'm not sure, but you and Chris may have another matchup on the schedule, possibly over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think we're actually the last game
before
the playoffs. I think that will be the big one to watch.
Decider, yeah, absolutely. And then just touching on my team a bit, so a better score than has been the case for my team. And if you look around the league scores last week, I think, for example, I would have beaten you or my dad in your game.
And, it was looking very promising early doors.
I might like to say, Chris even said as well, he was shaking for a while because he thought, this can't happen. My team, regardless of the season, it always seems to have some possibility to beat the best team in any given year, as a one-off random game. I don't know why. It didn't quite come off in this one. But it's nice to see a bit of life after the dismal performances I've had. But hey-ho, we'll go on to this next game then, which probably didn't have any relevance for the playoffs, but interesting for their own bragging rights. It was bucking the trend against Pakistan. Oh, this is a joke. What is happening with my jingles today? Pakistan and bucking the trend looked to have some consolation fun against each other last week, and it was Pakistan who got the token victory, entering this game 3-7. They won it 102-78, and there was some slim playoff hope for Mike at 5-5, but that's probably put to bed now at 5-6. Looking down the lineups, Pakistan, Josh Allen had a terrific day against Miami. What were you saying about Miami doing better? Ross, he got 40 points. Le'Veon Bell also got 15 against Washington. And Michael Gallup had a good day with 15. And the Raiders D as well teed off against Cincinnati with 17. For bucking the trend, he somehow strung together a couple of wins with a bit of a ragtag squad. Didn't come off this week. Kirk Cousins did well with 29. Alvin Kamara did well with 12 as well. And the Saints D got 18, but other than that, not much there. Not a lot on the bench either. Would have liked to see Devontae Parker in the lineup though. History of this matchup, we do actually have some history now, because Mike has played someone more than once, and he's lost to them both times. Pat is 2-0 in this game. So, it's been a rough season for both of these teams, hasn't it?
Yeah. No, I think I was saying before we started, Pat definitely got the bad end of an early trade with me, and unfortunately took an injury on the player that he made quite a few trades for.
Yeah. Who was also on a buy in this game. He's had a rough time of it. And I mean, if you're looking at some of the scores he's been scoring this year as well, he's not exactly been putting in low scores. He just happens to be coming against a team that is also putting in a big score. Absolutely.
Most weeks, I think based on his score alone, he would win quite a few games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just how it works sometimes, isn't it? You end up down the bottom end of the league, even though you don't probably deserve it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We'll see on the breakdown section in a bit. But yeah, certainly when me and Chris have been looking at Pat's team the last few weeks, he has been scoring a lot and unfortunately not winning. Mike's team is actually the opposite of that, though. It's funny because he's had a lot, as Chris likes to say, a lot of gypsy wins. We call Phil the Gypsy King, which he is, but if Mike's not the Gypsy King, he's probably the Gypsy Prince. But yeah, this week it didn't come off. This is Mike's team. It's not going to blow the doors off. He needs the other team to have a bad week, and it didn't happen this week. Could have had a better day with Devontae Parker, and not. He's been really good. You probably know that from following the team. But yeah, it didn't come off in this one. So Pat moves to 4-7, as I say, and Mike falls to 5-6. Our next game then was a Southampton division matchup between the Tuckfards and the Dream Team. Entering this week, the Tuckfards were leading at 8-2 after losing their first game for a long time. They took on the Dream Team, who were 4-6 entering the game. And, we've been saying for weeks now there's been holes in the Tuckfards team, and this came true in this game as the Dream Team took a nail-biter, 99-98. Tuckfards lose 2 in a row. Meanwhile, Viv picks up his first win after a loss. Looking down the lineups, Derek Carr had a solid day and a pinch start for the Dream Team because Carson Wentz has been struggling. He got 22 points. Ezekiel Elliott, got 17. Joe Mixon came through with 16. He's had a rough year. And Stephon Diggs with 18. Chiefs D got 11-2. On the other side, Tuckford Patrick Mahomes could have won this game on Monday night for the Tuckfards, but he only got 17 points in Mexico. Mark Ingram got 21 points, Keenan Allen 13, Jarvis Landry 10, and Deebo Samuel, Phil loves a rando start, he got 13. Patriots, he got 15, so not a bad week for Phil, just lost out to the Tuckfards. So history of this matchup now, all time, the Dream Team is, where's the Dream Team now? They're 6-7 against Pakistan, Tuckfards, so nearly levels the series. It's it was looking good there for a while for the Hawkfards, but the last 2 weeks, really...
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's happy to see it.
Yeah.
Just knock Phil down a peg or two.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the league for a little bit too long, for most people's liking. Obviously,
he's going to be watching this. There's a comment that's going to pop up on this.
But yeah, no, I think both teams wouldn't be disappointed with how their teams performed. They just didn't quite go Phil's way, especially with Mahomes, who has been putting in some huge scores. This season.
And of course he's been injured in recent weeks, not playing quite as well. He's had to rely on Matthew Stafford, but I think he's healthy now and just didn't come off.
Yeah, he would. Obviously, he was hoping on that, but it's don't always go that way, Phil. Unfortunately,
no. But I think if Chris were here, the narrative he would be peddling is these losses have been way overdue for Phil's team because some of the points he's been scoring have not been as stellar as he looked like a powerhouse at the start of the season, but really it's not been the same since. And looking at the bench, he could have won it if he started Fitzgerald over Peterson, but I don't think we can fault him for playing Peterson against the Jets over Fitzgerald against the Niners. So we're not going to drum into him too much. But for Viv, it's nice to see because this is a team that's been struggling. But they've had a nice run of form lately, and he's made some good ads, I'd say. Kenyon Drake there with 8 points, and of course a former Miami Dolphin player. And Joe Mixon, he's stuck to him. He's turned it around a bit. A good spot start of Derek Carr as well. So nice little win there for Viv. Technically, I suppose, Phil still hasn't locked up the Southampton division. But we'll probably get some more clarity on that after today's games, I would say. So, Phil is 8-3 now. Meanwhile, Viv is 5-6, and then we'll get to our last game of the week, which was I think we coined it the co-marquee matchup in the Portsmouth division, because it was the Detonators against Tom's Tyrants. In another key game to keep up in the Portsmouth division, the 4-6 Detonators took on the 5-5 Tom's Tyrants. Ixan had a lead over Tom's Tyrants in this one by 1 game, so they needed this one to keep up, and the Detonators needed a win to stay alive. A win that they did achieve, 94-71. Looking down the lineups, it was the Lamar Jackson show, really. 41 points, nearly half the team's points. Jamison Crowder got 14 as well, and the Browns D got 20 against Pittsburgh. Barely anything else there behind that though. And on Tom's Tyrants' side of the ball, it's just a disappointing day. His quarterback Kyle Allen had an absolute meltdown. Though against the team he supports, Atlanta, which he probably won't complain about. He only got 6 points. James Conner got injured in the game and only got 2. Austin Eckler had a nice day with 13. Chris Godwin 11, and the Niners D with 18, but nothing else there. History of this matchup: Tom's Tyrants is 10-7 all time against the Detonators now. It's been an interesting year for both of these teams, hasn't it, Ross? What happened in this game for Tom?
I mean, his team shit the bed. You would. I mean, you'd be very happy with a defensive score like that, but for a QB to come out and not quite make 6 points is very disappointing. Especially when you look on the other side and see 40 points. Yeah,
it's tough to watch.
I mean, the rest of the team weren't playing particularly badly. Like if you had a few more, if you had a wide receiver that didn't get injured and a QB that put a regular score up, it would have been a lot closer, if not a win for Tom. But it's a few too many players fell short. Yeah,
definitely, and really you highlighted it well. The Lamar Jackson was the difference in this one. You don't want to say if he scored the same as Kyle Allen, because that was never going to happen. But, the difference in the game was 24 points. So to get 41 from your quarterback, that's a massive bailout. And quarterback issues have been Tom's bugaboo this year, because he has had, Kyler Murray, who I don't fault him at all for benching him against the Niners D at the Levi Stadium, because their defense has obviously been amazing. And he would have won them the week on paper, but you can't fault him for not playing him. And then DJ Chark as well. You get him in the lineup, you're still not going to win. I was a bit interested to see him not play him. First game with Nick Foles back. And we know Nick Foles likes to chuck it down the field. I'd imagine he'll be back in the lineup this week, but like I say, it wouldn't have made the difference. For Ollie's team, it's been the same story all year long, hasn't it? It's been Lamar Jackson or bust.
Yeah.
So, Ollie picks up a win to stay alive, and Tom drops one he really couldn't afford to drop, as he now falls 2 games behind Ixan. So, those are all of last week's matchups. So, we'll take a look at the power rankings now. And it's nice this week because while E.Locker himself, Tom Barnes, is unavailable, the co-host has stepped into a journalism role and written these, and by God, can he stay, because he's actually written them before we done the podcast. So it's nice to see. So I'll run down the positions and you can give me your reaction to them, Ross. As I don't know if you've read them or...
I have not read them.
No. I've read them. So we've got Bucking the Trend at 12, Gridiron Gang at 11, Ben Necessities at 10, Pakistan at 9, Dream Team at 8, Tom's Torrents at 7, Bedednators at 6, The Wizard of Boz, or whatever it's called this week, at 5. And your team, same story there, Ross at 4. Tuck Fud's at 3, Exan at 2, and he put himself at 1, but you could probably justify it. What do you make of the power rankings, Ross? Fair?
I think they're probably pretty reasonable. I think, I'll, maybe put me up to 3rd, but okay.
No, I think you've got, your team has been really good.
Yeah, I mean,
Phil's team has been spotty.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't had a look at Phil's matchup this week, so I don't know how he's looking. But I feel like I'm probably in a half decent position, but you never know, do you? No, you never know. And
I personally, I just like it. Chris writing them for no other reason that I'm not the bottom when Chris writes it, apparently. So anything I can take in a 2 and 9 season. So those are your power rankings. We'll go to the milestone standing and stats now. So we're here, so we'll look at the milestones. So we like nice round numbers on the milestones, Ross, and it's quite funny actually because my dad's obviously dropped 6 in a row. He was way ahead, well not way ahead, but reasonably ahead of the most wins all time entering the season. You'll now see it's a 3-way tie, but hilariously, I think 2 weeks in a row, each of the top 3 win all time teams have all lost. Nobody wants to take sole possession of the most wins all time. But we'll see if we have any other nice round numbers here. Chris is now at parity again all time. We'll see there, 77 and 77 all. As he likes to say, may as well not have bothered. Yeah. Though he does have a trophy, so at least he's got that. No other nice round figures on the regular season stats. Let's take a look at the all times. I'm not seeing any nice round numbers there either. So I think the only thing of note is we don't see it on here, but on the absolute all time, Viv has now overtaken Nige. Obviously, retired at the start of this year by 1 win, so he's leapfrogged him. So we'll take a look now at the standings and stats, and of course at this time of year, 3 games to go, this really is where it all comes to a boil. So playoff race is firmly in play. We see in the Southampton division, despite dropping 2 games, the Tuckford still 8-3. They have a 3-game lead over both the Dream Team and Bucking the Trend. But more importantly, they have over 200 points basically over the Dream Team and 300 over Mike's team. So almost certain he's made the playoffs, barring some absolute cataclysmic implosion.
I mean, it would be incredible to watch if he didn't win.
But yeah, he's pretty much locked that up. And then Pakistan rounding it out there at 4 and 7 at the bottom. In the Portsmouth division, this was a very close race, but we have a bit of clarity now. Ixan's taken a 2-game lead. He's on a 3-game win streak right now, 7 of 4. Next closest is, well, the next 3 are all 5 and 6.
Yeah.
But then there's Wizard of Boz and Tom's Torrents. So there is still something to play for. Ben does have a bit of a point advantage. Not much overall in mind. But the 2 games is obviously absolutely crucial with 3 games to go. So with another win, realistically, he's probably done enough. We've seen crazy things happen, so not necessarily, but he's looking good right now. And then the Winchester division is the one that everyone's eyes are on. Not in terms of the playoff race, because I suppose all of the wildcard teams, other than yours right now, Ross, because you are technically, while you are tied for the lead with Chris, you are behind on points by about 170.
I think I will always be behind on points as well.
But yes, but you could obviously take it with the wins if Chris was to drop one. But yeah, you were 8-3. The next closest non-division leading team is 5-6, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much set. We don't usually see this. It usually goes down to the wire, but realistically, this week we could see 4 teams clinch playoffs.
Yeah,
in the same week.
We just leave it then. Just stop. No more playing this season. That's it.
Yeah.
Once after this week, we're done. It's all set.
Yeah. So yeah, you and Chris are vying for the top there. Ben Necessity's 4-7. They've dropped a lot on my team. Rounding out the bottom of everyone at 2-9. So if we take a look at the overall, Chris is still top with Phil second, and I'm going to do Chris's job here and highlight how little points Phil has conceded in the year.
That's insane.
He's only had 882 points scored against him. You can see all of the teams around him there are the mid 1000s. So he's really, but he has scored points as well. But no doubt it's helped. So yeah, we'll just go on to the breakdown, and this is what we'll see about what you said with Pat earlier. So if you don't know what the breakdown is, Ross, it's everyone versus everyone in a given week. You get your records. So, for example, Chris's score would have beaten everyone last week.
Yeah.
So he had 11-0 last week. He is the top of this metric. 93-28 through the season. That's pretty incredible. Yeah. But his team has been pretty good. Phil is 83-38. You know, we like to blast him and say he's not all that. He's still posting. He's 3 weeks in a row. He's been 7-4 now. So he's still doing pretty good. Ixan is next. Again, the 4 playoff teams are all the top 4 spots here, which you like to see because it shows that, like we said in Debate Corner earlier with the possible new playoff format of points forward. Some years the most points forward team just gets absolutely scored on as well, and they're high in the breakdown, but not necessarily in their actual ranking. Yeah. But this year, I think it's
pretty evenly matched.
Yeah. Ben Necessities, for a team that's lost 6 games in a row. It's quite surprising they're in 5th place in this match.
Yeah.
Not by a lot, mind. They are 65 and 56. Actually, only one behind your team.
Yes, yeah.
Hilariously,
it's a little bit worrying.
I would say your team's been probably better than that, certainly in recent form. Tom there is in 6th, which you would expect. All the usual suspects are here. Pat, like you said, look at his last 3 weeks: 8-3, 10-1, 9-2. I think he may have won only one of those weeks. Yeah. He lost the 10-1 week. And he lost in the 9-2 week. So tough going for Phil. And then, my team and Mike's around at the bottom. Mike, we like to point out, 5-6. Yeah, he's only got 28 and 93 in the breakdown. Massive deviation from the standard there, right? The coach ranking is for your benefit, Ross. So for your optimal lineup in a given week. So, for example, if you had a quarterback score 20 and on your bench you had a quarterback score 30, you'd have a 10 extra of 10. Yeah. And then now that we have the Superflex formats, it's really easy to rack up these coach points. But we see Viv's done a pretty good job all year long, though it's a bit of a red herring because if you don't have a lot of depth, of course, it makes you look better than you are. Like with Bare Necessities as well, 112. Chris's team, a big fat 0. Last week, he's doing pretty good. He's 3rd in this match. You're doing pretty good as well, Ross. Your team, I would say, has more depth than most, especially after that trade you pulled off earlier in the season. Pat in 5th. He's having a good year in this metric, and I'm doing okay at 6 as well. Mike's at 7, Ben's at 8, but we get to the bottom here. I mean, you only need to look at Tom's team. He's 5-6 right now. Was firmly in the playoff race. Has slipped away. When you're leaving 300 points in your bench through 11 games, that's what, on average, like 27 or something a week he's leaving on his bench. He probably could have done with that. Same with Ollie's team. He's 5-6 now as well, but left over 200 points on his bench.
We got 63 points he left on the bench. That's insane.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
63 points could win a game. You just had that score.
Yeah. And then we get to the true ranking, which kind of adds all of this together. It assigns points to your ranking from 1 to 12 in each of that. So Chris is unsurprisingly top with a near perfect score. Only the coach ranking is letting him down. You are second, Ross. You're doing very well.
Not mad about that.
No. And then again, the two other playoff teams, Phil and Ben, rounding out the top there. Again, it's surprising to see my dad so high in this match, given he's lost 6 games in a row. But you can boost yourself with the coach ranking quite easily, and he does have a good breakdown score. And then really the rest is what you would expect as well. So those are your standings and stats. So now we can get to the interesting part of the week preview. Now, since you are the first time guest on the LOC Report, Ross, you can choose this week's marquee matchup. The games we have: Gridiron Gang against the Dream Team, Forge Flies against Padistan, the Wizard of Boz against the Tuckfards, Ixan against Bucking the Trend, the Dak Knight against Tom's Tyrants, and Ben Estes against Bedadnaders.
Oh man, there's nothing particularly good for the top end, unfortunately.
No, it's so it's an interdivisional week this week. So
I mean, I might go against the curve and go Gridiron Gang against Dream Team.
Okay.
Just because I'd like to see if you go up at all, Nath.
Okay, yeah, let's go then. And so marquee matchup of this week, we have let's call it the Losers Bowl, the Gridiron Gang against the Dream Team. Gridiron Gang takes on the Dream Team in a Week 12 matchup that's all about bragging rights and final finishing position at this point. But it's an interesting game because can Gridiron Gang break their 4-game losing streak? Can they catch up from being at 2-9? Can the Dream Team theoretically stay alive in the playoff place with a win? Because they absolutely need to win out now. Projections in this one have it 93-86 in favour of Gridiron Gang, who are already up 21 points courtesy of DeAndre Hopkins in the Thursday night game. History in this matchup, Gridiron Gang, what are they all the time against the Dream Team? They are 3-7 all the time against the Dream Team, so usually struggle. Looking down the lineups, changes from last week. Dallas Goddard comes into the starting lineup. I can't even remember who was playing for me last week. Philip Lindsay comes in as well, and the Bears defense come in from the waiver wire. So my team this week is going with 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end and 1 running back. On Viv's side of the ball, Carson Wentz comes into the starting lineup in favour of Derek Carr. And any other changes here? Jones Samuels comes in starting as well for, I think, Stephon Diggs, who is on a bye. So Viv is going with 20... Wow, we haven't seen this yet. He's going with 32 personnel. Interesting NFL formation, that 3 running backs and 2 tight ends. Maybe one of those running backs is split out wide. So, Ross, preview the game for me.
Oh, I mean, it's interesting start already, to be fair. That you're already leading the 21 points, and you've left 17 points on your bench.
You know what? While you bring that up, I will just explain that. So, obviously, Marlon Mack was injured last week, and I should cover off any injuries while we're here. Devontae Freeman's out. Brady's questionable with an elbow, but he'll play. So Marlon Mack obviously broke his hand last week for the Colts, and Jonathan Williams had a really good yardage day. I think he got over 130 scrimmage yards or something. But Jordan Wilkins did not play in that game, and he was active for the Thursday night game, the one we're watching right now. Yeah. And it was tricky because I didn't know if Jordan Wilkins was declared out, I was definitely going to play him because he would have obviously got all the early down work for Indy. But because he was playing, I didn't know if there was going to be some sort of committee there, and you've got Naheem Hines who takes the passing down role as well. So I didn't want to touch it with a barge pole. Annoyingly, before I went to bed, I saw a news report that apparently Jonathan Williams was going to be treated as the starter for the game, but we all know coaches lie in the NFL. Yeah. They weren't lying in this case. It is annoying. Like I said, had Wilkins been out, I absolutely would have played him, but it's what it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But yeah, no, I do like your chances. I mean, Drew Brees has been putting in some really good performances, but I also think that Viv has got a solid team. I think Elliott is probably going to be racking up a decent whack of points, even though he's got a tough matchup. I'd always put decent bet on him to score a solid amount of points.
There's certain guys that are just matchup
he's
proof,
just
right?
And I think it's going to come down to whether anyone comes out with any more big scores. I mean, arguably Hopkins might be the only one that is putting in a real big performance in this entire matchup.
Possibly,
So it'll be interesting to see whether you get up into like sort of the hundreds, or whether it's going to be one of those sort of tight, low-scoring ones.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, we'll just run down a few of the matchups for each side. So, like you said, Breeze is playing Carolina, who have been pretty good against quarterbacks all year, but we've seen the last 2 weeks they've absolutely sucked. So we'll see. And then Williams, in theory, has a good matchup against the Jets, but he doesn't get targeted too much. Lindsay has a good matchup against Buffalo. They're quite soft against the run, and the Bears at home against the Giants D, who give up a lot of points as well. On Viv's side, Seattle is a okay matchup for Wentz, but Wentz has really been struggling. He's been without a lot of his top pass catchers. They've been injured and stuff, and not been able to establish a run game. So it's a risk for the dream team, but we'll see. Like you say, Elliott, tough matchup, but he's a very good player, matchup proof. Joe Mixon, though, not matchup proof. Pittsburgh is a very good defense, so interesting that Viv is sticking with him. And Zach Ertz has got a really good matchup against Seattle as well, actually. Obviously, his quarterbacks, Carson Wentz, they're soft against the tight ends. I'm also starting a Philadelphia tight end at the moment.
So we're voting for a big Philadelphia win then to make this game a bit interesting.
Yeah, but the one that really sticks out to me there is Jalen Samuels against Cincinnati. They've been an absolute sieve when it comes to the run this year.
Yeah.
James Conner's obviously out. So he figures to get a lot of work, so that could be a nice spot start for him there. Who are you picking to win this game, Ross?
On initial, I would probably favour the Dream Team right now.
Yeah.
Even with your early points showing a bit of promise, my money would still be on the Dream Team because I think that composition of that team is pretty solid. Yeah.
No, they absolutely do have a good nucleus of players, and there is a lot to like about the Dream Team. And you can't, form in the LOC, you can't knock it. My team's lost 4 in a row. It's been pretty dreadful all year long. Yeah. But despite that, because I've got a 21-point advantage, my team showed a bit better last week.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick my team. I need some self-confidence. There's enough nice matchups there, I think, for me to at least stumble to a decent score. And there's some, I think you can agree, New England, Pittsburgh aren't good matchups for his 2 running backs there.
Yeah.
There's some things not to like. So, yeah. It could be a low scorer, like you say, but I'm hoping and praying my team can actually win a game. Next game, then, we have Forge Flyers against Pakistan. Forge Flyers take on Pakistan in this Week 12 matchup. Forge Flyers, they are looking to stay ahead in the division race and lock up that number 1 overall seed. Meanwhile, Pakistan, their season is all but over, but they can play spoilers, which I'm sure they'd love to do in this one. Chris is projected to win it, 77-63, so quite a low scorer right now. T.Y. Hilton got 1.8 for Chris on Thursday night on his first game back from injury. Not a great day. History of this matchup, Chris is 1-4 all-time against Pakistan, so they are a bit of a bogey team. So looking down the lineups for Chris, he's playing Dak Prescott in New England at the moment. That's risky. Christian McCaffrey, of course, plays. Darius Guice comes in from the waiver wire to the starting lineup. He could be a good player. Josh Gordon comes into the starting lineup too. Unclear if T.Y. Hilton's going to play at the moment. He's sending Carlos Hyde to the bench, who played on Thursday night, and Marlon Mack, who is injured as well. And Darren Waller, I think. So Chris is going with 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers. On Pat's side of the ball, Pat needs to make some changes. We can see there he's got 2 players on a bye, so let's say Devontae Adams comes in.
Yeah.
And insert kicker here, it doesn't really matter, does it? So this game will probably be closer once Pat makes those changes, so of course he's probably not changed his lineup yet either, so we won't dig too deep into that. Preview the game for me, Ross.
So I think if if Pat remembers to log on and change up his team, that would be very handy because obviously a win from Pat would go well for me to push me into a decent position.
Absolutely.
I think at this point it doesn't matter whether I come first or second in the league, and the same for the Forge Flyers.
Yeah.
We're going to be playing each other in the face
the
playoffs. So it's just for the bragging rights.
The only way that wouldn't happen is if we didn't preview it too much. We'll circle back at the end and look at that. But if hypothetically, Phil's still in the hunt for the number one, if Phil got the number one seed,
yes, he could.
Then you would avoid each other in the first round.
Yeah, I think. But the way our teams have been playing, I would favour us for at least one of us being the top seed.
I think so.
But obviously, we could end up completely stitching ourselves up as well in that last game of the season, and end up one of us playing Phil and the other one playing who's the top of the other league? Is it
Ben?
Ben, yeah. So. But yeah, no, I obviously I favour Forge Flyers for this one, but I even with that initial low score from Hilton, but my hopes are on Pakistan to put a win in. I think he deserves a few more wins this season just to make his overall a bit more reasonable.
Yeah.
And obviously it would favour me if Pat was making some wins.
Yeah, absolutely. You pick Chris, but I don't think it's very convincing on Chris's side. So Dak Prescott's obviously going into New England, tough place to play. We've seen Dallas not play as well against the good teams. They beat up on the bad teams, but they don't necessarily play well against the good teams. And New England's got a really good pass defense. Christian McCaffrey as well, he is matchup proof, but at New Orleans and the Superdome is a tough matchup. They've been pretty good against the run as well. And he's got some risks in Darius Geis and Josh Gordon. I think Peterson's playing in this game, so Geis is going to be in a timeshare. Josh Gordon, he's not been in Seattle long. We don't really know what we're going to see from him. I think Tyler Lockett's going to play. And Philly have an improved secondary. They used to be a really bad matchup earlier in the year when they were all injured, but that's definitely a tougher game now. So, and of course, he's already a play down, really, with Hilton only getting 2 points. He has got a really nice matchup with the Steelers D against Cincinnati, I'll say, though. For Pat's side of the ball, there's definitely some stuff to like there. Like we said, we'll assume Devontae Adams comes in. It's quite funny, actually, that he's still got Gardner Minshew on the bench, considering... Might want to change that now. But back to the starters. Josh Allen against Denver at home. Look, he's just coming off that 40-point game. He's a good QB. Bell against Oakland. I like that. I imagine Pat's probably going to change his defense too because he's not changed his team yet. Cross country for the Raiders isn't ideal. Yeah. Gallup against New England. Again, that's not great, but he's got Terry McLaurin who's been really good all year. I agree with you. Pat's had some really good weeks. The team's definitely not looking as reliable this week, but there are some really ugly things for Forge Flyers. Yeah. I think I hope Pat's gonna make his changes. Pat's showed he's been pretty good at making his changes this year because this is a bit of a ragtag team. Yeah. But he's made it work. I'm gonna pick Pat.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna help you out big time. Chris got away with one last week against me. It looked iffy for a while. I can just see an upset coming. He avoided it for 1 week, but I think it's coming soon. So, Pat to win this one for me, but you're going with Chris. So our next game then, we have the Wizard of Boz against the Tuckfards. Coach Gardner takes on Coach Tuckfards in a Week 12 matchup where the Tuckfards looking to lock up their playoff spot. Meanwhile, Coach Gardner is looking to stay alive. Both these teams coming off losses, and currently the Wizard of Boz projected to win this one 94-88. Let's look down the lineups. For the Wizard of Boz, I think David Montgomery comes into the lineup for maybe Mark Andrews, and other than that, I think they're currently unchanged. So they are going with 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs, 3 receivers. On Phil's side of the ball, Baker Mayfield comes into the lineup, for Patrick Mahomes, who is on a bye. And who else comes in? I think Keenan Allen comes out for Golden Tate, maybe. Adrian Peterson comes out as well for I'm not sure who, maybe Jarvis Landry. So Phil is going with 20 personnel as well this week. History of this matchup. Let's take a look at it. Phil's team is 2-2 all-time against Ollie, so a split series. Injuries, Deebo Samuel questionable, but I think he'll play. Peterson's also questionable with a toe injury, but apparently he'll suit up. Evan Ingram has already been ruled out for this game. Is Phil going to lock up a playoff spot this week, Ross? That's my question to you.
I mean, looking at the... Yeah, I think probably he will. Yeah, I think he's probably has got this. It might be close, but I think he probably will scrape through.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think it probably matters, because he's probably gonna, if he doesn't win this week, he'll probably win next week or the week after.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I think any way it goes, he's probably still going to be happy, and
Sure.
I think he's probably feeling quite comfortable on this one. But yeah, he's obviously counting on a decent performance by the Browns against Miami, which, you know, like I was saying, Miami, they're coming back.
They've definitely been better.
Yeah,
they've absolutely been better.
It could turn around and bite him, but we'll see. I mean, I would probably still favour a decent score from Mayfield against Miami, but they might do something. You never know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Mayfield's had a really rough year. He's been playing a bit better of late, but I do know Miami have actually been a bit stingier against quarterbacks than you would have thought they would have been. So yeah, Phil hasn't got great matchups there. But Barkley's against Chicago. They haven't got the best run D, but Barkley's also not been playing great lately. Deebo Samuel, who knows what you're going to get from the Niners pass game, and Packers are a good pass defense as well. Golden Tate, again, also against Chicago. He's really doubling down on his Browns and Giants. Not two teams you've really wanted to double down on this year, I'd say. There's reasons Phil has not looked as good as he was in the start of the season. And this team is a completely different team without Patrick Mahomes playing his best, let's face it. Jarvis Landry, you know, he's very reliant on what Mayfield does as well, of course. And Ingram's good, but the Rams have actually been really good against the run. I know the Ravens are a bit of a different kettle of fish, but they've been good against the run. And the Lions defense as well. So I had the Lions defense on my bench last week, ready to stream them this week, but the Lions defense are not good. I could see a scenario, and this is why I dropped them, where the Redskins just run all over the Lions because their run D is bad, and they're not really a good D overall. So I think that might be a bit of a trap matchup there. On the other side was the Bulls. Russell Wilson's back from his bye. That's absolutely key for them. He has, much like Lamar Jackson has carried the other Ollie's team, Wilson has really carried this Ollie's team, and he could put on another 40-point classic against Philadelphia. Julio Jones, you would back to absolutely blow up against the paper-thin Tampa Bay secondary. David Montgomery should have a good day against the Giants D. Cup's got to have a better day. You know, when the Rams play at home, they're a completely different team. Golladay's facing a pretty bad Redskins defense. So there's a lot to like for Coach Gardner's side this week. And I think I'm going to go with Ollie Gardner. I'm going against the grain this week. I really am with some of these matchups. But he's got good players. He's got some really nice matchups there. Yeah. But you're going with Phil.
Yeah, I'm going with Phil. I think generally this week with all these matchups, it's going to be tight on all fronts.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, I think it could go either way for any of us.
Yeah, when you get to this point in the season, the pressure piles on, and some crazy things do happen.
Yeah.
Our next game then is Ixan against Bucking the Trend. Ixan take on Bucking the Trend, with Ixan looking to stay ahead in the playoff race. They are ever so close to locking up that Portsmouth division. 3-game win streak, they take on Bucking the Trend. They are currently projected to win this one 82 to 71, and they have had a player play on Thursday, but it was their quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. He only got 13 points. Looking down the rest of the lineup, I don't think Ben has made any changes as yet, so no change there. He is going with 20 personnel again, 2 running backs, 3 receivers for Bucking the Trend. Daniel Jones comes into the lineup for Kirk Cousins, who's on a bye. And who else is playing? I think DK Metcalf comes back from his bye. Devontae Parker comes into the lineup. He had Pascal playing the Thursday night game. He got a big fat 0. Not a great start. James Washington comes in as well. So he's sent quite a few players to the bench. Melvin Gordon there as well. Mike is going with 10 personnel this week. 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. Very receiver heavy team. These two have not played each other before. And injuries. Just before I turn it over to you, Ross. Gurley didn't practice, but he will play. AJ Green remains out. Mohamed Sanu questionable with an ankle sprain. He might play. Keep an eye on that. George Kittle is expected to suit up, return from his absence as well. Is this a trap game for Ben, Ross, or?
I think no. He's going to have this all locked up unless Jones puts in a really good performance. I think just on that board there, I think Ben's got this, and he's going to be securing his spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's been a sneaky good team a lot of this year as well. Much like my dad's team has been quite consistent. Look, having the quarterback get 13 isn't ideal, but when your opponent's got a 0 from a Thursday night player, that more than balances it out. And Daniel Jones going to Chicago, it's not an easy place to go for a rookie. So we'll see. If we look down the players for Ben, Derrick Henry's been a really good player for him all season long. He's playing a Jags D at home that gives up, I think, the most yards per carry in the NFL, or they're certainly up there, which you love to see in fantasy. Cortland Sutton's got a tough game against Buffalo. Marvin Jones is an easier game against Washington. Calvin Ridley, again, I already said about Julio Jones against Tampa Bay. He's got the potential to blow up there. And Todd Gurley is facing a pretty stout Ravens D as well. But they are travelling cross-country, so we'll see. On the other side, I already said about Daniel Jones. Alvin Kamara, that he's playing a run funnel in Carolina. They absolutely hemorrhage points to running backs. DK Metcalf, he's a bit of a role player in this Seahawks offense, certainly against a better Philadelphia defense. Devontae Parker's been good, though, against a Browns team that's not been so good. But James Washington, that... I know I'm starting Dallas Goedert, so I'm not really one to speak, but that feels like a desperate start to me. He, I think, is the second or third Steelers receiver, but the Steelers just have not been a great passing team this year, have they? So... You can't pick against Ben this week.
It's got to be...
I know I'm going against the grain with some of these matchups, but Mike's team has been a bit toothless all year long, speaking from someone coaching a toothless team. I think I know. So, will Ben clinch playoffs this week, though, do you think?
Yeah, I think he will do. I think he's just going to secure that, and then he'll be out of reach. And I think we might be in a situation where we've got our 4 by the end of this week.
Certainly looking possible. Our next game then, we have the Dak Knight. Here you go, Ross, against Tom's Tyrants. A must-win game for Tom's Tyrants as they need this win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Meanwhile, Ross is hoping to steal the division lead over Chris. He's currently projected to do so, 96 to 83. Looking down the lineup for you, Ross, what are your lineup changes this week? Just to save me.
I cannot remember what I did change actually. So
maybe if I look at who you have on the bench.
Oh my god, I have no idea.
All right, let's just say what your personnel is. You are going running back heavy this week. 3 running backs, 2 receivers, 30 personnel. For Tom's team, it looks like he's unchanged at the moment because he's still playing. No, he's not unchanged because Chris Carson's come back into the lineup. And DJ Chark's come into the lineup, and currently Alshon Jeffrey's in the lineup too, in favour of Hunter Henry, James Conner, who's been ruled out through injury, and Austin Eckler. Kyler Murray's on a bye, so he's going back to Kyle Allen. That's risky. For your team, Ross, Emmanuel Sanders is questionable with the rib injury he's been suffering through, but I think he'll probably play. No other injuries there for you. The history of this matchup, all time. Where is your team on here, Ross? I think it's up here. There you are. You are 4-3 all time against Tom. So, you feeling confident?
Yeah. I think it's. I hopefully going to be a good week. Obviously, I want to get this win and then secure my spot as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's you never know. Ryan's been putting in some good scoring weeks, but then he has had the odd week where he's underperformed.
Sure.
But I would say this week he's going to probably do as usual. And
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I would be absolutely shocked if he didn't score at least 40 points.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
You want 40 points on him?
The Buccaneers have been really good against the run. Obviously, Freeman's out. Brian Hill was ineffective against the Panthers D, who absolutely hemorrhaged running back points last week. Matt Ryan's going to be throwing the ball all day.
Yeah.
If they don't throw the ball every single down, the game plan is wrong in my opinion. So if he doesn't top 40 points, that would be surprising to me. So. No, I think you've actually got a really good chance. I don't think you need to worry at all about a trap game here. Mainly because Tom is playing Kyle Allen at the moment. The same Kyle Allen that's thrown 8 interceptions in 2 weeks. He's going into the Superdome against a pretty good Saints D. I don't care what else Tom's got there. He's not going to be able to overcome that, specifically when you've got Matt Ryan. If we stick on Tom's side for a bit, Leonard Fournette, he's going up against a tough Titans D. He's only scored 1 touchdown this year as well. He's getting a lot of yards, but not a lot of touchdowns. Chris Carson's going up against a good Philly run D. Chris Godwin's going against a revitalised Atlanta D. DJ Chark's going against a pretty good Tennessee D. And Jeffrey's banged up to high hell. So and the 49ers have been a really good D, but they're playing Green Bay, and they're a bit banged up. There is not a lot to like on Tom's side of the ball. But for you, Ross, you've got Sony Michel, who's a 2-down thumper, but Dallas' D has been okay. Patriots are at home. We know they like to run the ball if they can. They have struggled, though, but he's always a good bet to get a touchdown. Yeah. Josh Jacobs has been great for you this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been really good.
Yeah, and the Raiders are going to want to rely on him going on a road game. Amari Cooper's got a horrendous matchup with Stephon Gilmore. It'll be interesting to see what that battle looks like. But Michael Thomas should probably feast on Carolina. He's been great all season long too, hasn't he?
He's been putting some real good scores in.
And Tevin Coleman's got a great matchup against Packers D that I think averages over 5 yards a carry or something ridiculous. So, are you picking your team to win?
Yeah. I think I've got to pick my team to win.
I think so. I think this one's pretty clear cut for me. Tom doesn't have the look of a playoff team. I don't think he's going to get the win he needs. I think you're going to get the win you need to propel yourself to the playoffs. So our last game of this week, then we have Bare Necessities against Bedadnators. Two founding teams face off this week, and Bare Necessities season's all but over. Bedadnators need to win to stay alive. Projections in this one currently have Bare Necessities winning their first game in 7 games, or 6 games I should say, sorry, they lost 6, 89-84. They've already got 23 points from the Thursday night game, courtesy of Deshaun Watson. Looking down the lineups, Tyler Lockett's back in, he should play, no injury designation there, so he should be good to go. Edelman's questionable with his shoulder, but he should play as well. In terms of changes, I think James White's coming to the lineup for Kelsey. He's on a bye, and Matt Brady comes out as well for, I think, Tyler Lockett, who's coming back from a bye as well. So my dad's team is going with 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 receivers. For the Detonators, they get Aaron Jones back from bye. Bo Scarborough comes from the waiver wire to the starting lineup, as does D.D. Westbrook and Brandon Cooks. My goodness, it's a waiver wire team. And they have sent, I don't know who they've sent to the bench. I think they've just cut some people. Christian Kirk went to the bench there. But the lineup, they are going with 20 personnel as well, 2 running backs, 3 receivers. History of this matchup, the Detonators are 8-5 all the time against Bare Necessities. Cooks is making his first return after he had that concussion. Ross, preview the game for me.
I think the early points from Watson for Bare Necessities is a good sign. I probably would favour them for the win on this one, actually, because I think there's some risk elements for Ollie's team. I think there's a few places where you would think they would be scoring points where I don't think they actually will. I think the thing that really jumps out to me is Browns defense. Most weeks this season, you would want to put a defense that's playing against Miami.
They've definitely been better on offense.
But
so.
they're definitely they are looking better. I think where earlier in the season you'd be hoping for around the 20-point mark.
Yeah.
Now you're looking under the 10s definitely, and that might have been that might be the pivotal score there, because I think probably the rest of the teams are pretty equally matched up.
I don't know if it's. I don't think we can overlook that Ollie is playing Bo Scarborough, who he just added this week. He's playing D.D. Westbrook, who he just added this week. He's playing Brandon Cooks, who he just added this week. Jamison Crowder joined the team about 2 weeks ago. It's a complete waiver team. With the Lions, Bo Scarborough, yes, he had a decent game last week, but I got completely burned by a Lion running back. They're just like committing it there. Who knows what you're going to get with Westbrook and Cooks, really. He's not been good. Aaron Jones is facing a really tough Niners D. He's going to have to rely on Lamar Jackson in this one more than ever, which isn't the easiest thing going into LA. For my dad, like you said, he's already got the 23-point advantage. That's going to go a long way. Lockett's a good player. He should be able to have a decent day against Philly. Chubb's got a pretty good matchup against Miami, I think, at home. Julian Edelman, he's the top receiver for New England. They're going to rely on him. Allen Robinson's got a nice matchup against the Giants, and James White could have a good day against Dallas's D as well. So it is tough for me to pick. Like, I love a good stream, I love a good spot start. Don't get me wrong, but when you're relying on 3 players for that, it's tricky. I'm going to pick Ben Necessities. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Ben Necessities as well.
Okay. So that would put to bed Ollie's playoff hopes as well. So just going back to the playoff race, so like we said earlier, really, unless Ben loses this week, it's almost certain we've got our 4 playoff teams in Phil, Ben, Chris and you already. What remains to be seen is who will play who, so we'll get some clarity on that. And I did mean to write it on there before my PC crashed earlier, but of course we get towards award season near the end of the regular season, and there is one award I do not handle, and that's the Ross Nunn Comedy Award for comedy.
Yeah.
Or
outstanding contribution to comedy.
Outstanding contribution to comedy. There you go. And you of course did provide visual evidence of that as requested last week. So I obviously I handle all the nominations centrally for the other ones, but for the outstanding contribution to comedy, it's submitted, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. You can you can submit someone else, and then everyone votes based on those submitting. You can't vote for yourself, and you can't submit yourself.
Right, okay. When would you like those nominations by, Ross? We try and get the normal LOC awards obviously distributed in week 16, but if you want to do something different...
No, I will stick to the system for the existing one.
So let's say nominations by end of week 15, so then we've got a week to vote on it. Okay, so get your submissions into Ross. He'll be handling all that. And so we have reached the end of the LOC report. Did you enjoy your first episode?
It was good fun. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I'm sure I haven't been as helpful as other guests.
No, don't be silly. Everyone's got to break their LOC report virginity at some point, right? So, thanks for coming. Have a good rest of your Sunday, Ross.
Thank you.
And I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday and week ahead. Best of luck in your fantasy matchup this week, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.